Good evening, everybody. On behalf of India International Center, I welcome you all to this session to discuss different aspects of Dr. Manimala Roy's seminal work, From Shanties to School. As the title itself states, it's a very interesting book. Friends, the book is written by the economist, but I found a literary person in that. This is my personal comment, and of course, the others who are the eminent people over here, they would be adding further to what they explored through the book. As far as the book is concerned, textually it explores how the 1991 economic reforms triggered an urgency among the migrant workers in the cities for literacy. Dr. Roy's book, Chronicle, That Untold Story, was published towards the end of 2019, and the book was well received. But the long spell of lockdown disrupted its journey. Now, let us focus on the book again. We are privileged to have, as panelists, such distinguished personality as Ambassador Reena Pandey ma'am, Professor C.B. Sharma of IGNOU, Dr. Prasannanshu, professor from NLU, and of course, Dr. Roy herself, the author. She is principal of Baswa International School, and myself, Dr. Renu Tomar, Joint Director in National Testing Agency. Let us begin the proceeding with this question to ma'am, Reena ma'am. Ma'am, you have had long administrative exposure. As a Foreign Service officer, you must have seen a lot of initiatives in other countries also. So, what did you find from the literary angle in this book? How could you relate to the experiments in this book with the other part of the world which you have explored, as far as underprivileged children are concerned, which have been captured in this book? Ma'am, over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Renu Tomar. First of all, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I feel honored to be on a panel for a book discussion with distinguished panelists like Dr. Renu Tomar, Professor C.B. Sharma, Professor Prasannanshu, and the author, of course, Dr. Manimala Roy. I also thank Mr. Kamal Wali, Secretary IIC, Mrs. Usha Munshi, Chief Librarian, and Mr. Rajiv Mishra, Assistant Librarian of IIC, for giving me this opportunity to be here today. You asked me how are my experience, Rod. I would say that I found that education, of course, the level of education or the level of knowledge that our Indian students had was much higher. Particularly when you think of the general knowledge they had, it was so much above standard, and maybe that's the reason why they do so well, particularly in developed countries, even though all their studies may have been in India, which is a developing country. So I've always been very proud of our level of education, standard of education. But then when we think of underprivileged, it's a different story, which is what Dr. Roy has highlighted in a book about this silent movement, for the underprivileged, which is going on, which is encouraging, but also poses many challenges for the government. I was fortunate to work in countries like, well, let's say England, which had a level of education which was high. Many Indians go there. In Kathmandu, I saw the effort that was being put by the government, including with help from India, because of their lack of better higher education facilities. India, we were helping this country in giving them scholarships, in giving them seats, even in professional courses, which we were not giving to other foreign nationals. Nepal was an exception. So I saw this kind of what you saw, where India could be a helper in education field for other countries, many countries. through so many programs run by the Ministry of External Affairs, where we offer training courses to so many countries, developing countries in India. So these countries need a lot of support, need a lot of financing, and I'm not going into developed countries. So this was my experience that I saw.
Thank you, ma'am. Indeed, we all should be proud of the fact that we have studied in a nation for which the education is a very serious business. And we should also be proud of the fact that despite the fact that we are a developing nation, but we do our bits as to give advantage to the unprivileged students, particularly in the nations who are in our neighboring countries. Ma'am, thanks a lot. At this note, I would like to add that it's heartening to see, first of all, that it's a full house, and I'm really, really very thankful to you for being with us this evening. This itself proves that book is an interesting subject, and we do have readers amongst us. As I can see, that Professor C.B. Sharma, who is sitting with me, and he had a lot of experience as far as education is concerned. His name is known to almost anybody and everybody. You name him, even if the person may not be from the education, I am, so I'm an ardent fan of his. But even if the person is not from the education, even that person would say that, yes, he has done a lot as far as the students are concerned, particularly underprivileged are concerned. And in NIOS, he had gone to length to work for more as far as the underprivileged students were concerned. And DLED, with that program, I was personally associated. And it was very interesting module which Sir had developed. So thanks, ma'am, for giving me a chance to interact personally with the Sir. And we have interacted before, but that was not at such a close distance. Sir, would you like to highlight certain points as far as this book is concerned, sir?
Thank you so much, Renuji. I'm slightly unstable. I never expected somebody to know me before, and yes, I keep appearing on television, discussions on education particularly. My experiences with NIOS has been great, and I keep saying I don't know if I really deserve to be chairman there, but I thank God it gave me great opportunities. But all the salutations that Reena ji mentioned in the beginning of her interjection add to my interjection. That's my preface. Thank you very much. I look at this book from a very different perspective. Already Renu ji has said I'm an educationist. So when I was looking at this book, I was here when this book was launched, in fact, and Professor Dinesh Singh ji spoke on it. And somehow I was with Dinesh Singh when ma'am invited me and asked me to come for this. This book is a great book, I would say. Why? The author is the principal of a school. And I'm a great fan of principals. I don't know if you have heard me before. I don't forget to mention every time how I really wish to be principal of a school. They really change lives. They are the architects of society. And I always say I have been principal for 5 years because I was chairman in NIOS, and I really... So I approached this book as someone who is looking at a principal who has looked into the society so closely. I don't find that with many educationists who work in schools. I was addressing principals only a few days back in Pune, and I said, when I talk to you, you give me such great insights into schooling. Talk to a school teacher, talk to a school principal, and she would tell you what requires to be changed. But when I ask them, give me a write-up, they are not into the habit of that. The great principals of the world are those who have recorded so well. Matthew Arnold, he was professor of education, who went on to become a school principal, and then great job as a school principal. I look at this book from that perspective. Read this book. This has great data. What we call in education institutional memory. We do a research, we do field work, we forget it, and it is never recorded. So someone now 10 years down the line would not be able to understand कि क्या problem था, क्या बदलना है. I remember जब हम लोग national education policy पर काम कर रहे थे, and I had the great fortune to be part of the national education policy. प्रधानमंत्री जी जब final draft कस्तूरी रंगन का गया तो उन्होंने कहा कि यार ये 480 पेज का क्या करोगे, इसको कैसे लागू करोगे तो कस्तूरी कोठारी कमीशन लागू कर दो. उन्होंने कहा मुझे 5 चीजें बताओ, क्या गड़बड़ी है, क्या बदलना है, कौन बदलेगा, कितना समय लगेगा और कितना पैसा लगेगा. छोटा डॉक्यूमेंट बताओ जिसको लागू करोगे. ये किताब वही है. She has been able to look at children from very humble backgrounds who migrate to Delhi, live in small jhuggies, and how they aspire to be great, how they aspire to do something different. So, 2 things. I'll be short so that, you can ask me other questions and I will again be able to interact then. I admire the author because she understands children. She understands their aspirations. She can go and look into the real questions and has been able to record, and this will be a great help to those who plan. I had really forgotten when I attended last time, and recently the government has put me on a panel and on a committee which the Honorable Minister is chairing. We are going to revise the National Right to Education Act. And I am one of the 3 members, academics, who would be looking at this. We are doing interaction across the country. ये किताब जो डेटा देता है, कौन सा बच्चा कहाँ है, उसको क्या जरूरत है. To share with you, we are not very happy with the definition of the school that the Right to Education has given. This really damaged our schooling system. इतना philanthropy था इस देश में, इतने लोग मदद करते थे, इतने लोग पढ़ाते थे, मंदिर के बरामदे में पढ़ाते थे, अपने घरों के बरामदे में पढ़ाते थे, वो सब बंद हो गया, एकल विद्यालय बंद हो गया. ये किताब हमको मदद करेगी वहां बताने में कि आप कहां कराइए. अभी हम लोगों ने फोकस ग्रुप काम किया है ऑल्टरनेटिव स्कूलिंग पर, और हमने ये बहुत जोर देके उसमें लिखा है कि कोई भी एक्स्ट्रॉर्डिनरी लेडी जो कि डांसर है, वो क्यों नहीं 15 बच्चों को डांस पढ़ा सकती है, वो स्कूल क्यों नहीं कहा जा सकता है, हमको क्यों एक 3 एकड़ की जमीन में स्कूल बनाना है. वहां ये डेटा मदद करेगा. झुग्गी में रहता है बच्चा, स्कूल नहीं जा पाता है, कोई आदमी वहां जाके पढ़ाना चाहता है, उसको आप पढ़ाने नहीं देते हैं क्योंकि वो स्कूल नहीं है विद इन द डेफिनेशन ऑफ राइट टू एजुकेशन. आई विल end by saying this is a great book with great data. I can find great research in it. दिल्ली में क्या है, कहाँ से बच्चे आए हैं, एक एक आदमी की कहानी जो ऑथर खोजती है, गांव से लेकर के शहर आके उसका एस्पिरेशन और कैसे कैसे वो बच्चा करता है. ये बहुत ही सुंदर किताब है एजुकेशन कॉर्पस का और एजुकेशन के पूरे लिटरेचर का. लेकिन आई डोंट नो व्हाई दिस बुक हैज़ नॉट बीन रियली पिक्ड अप बाय मेनी एजुकेशनिस्ट एज सच, बिकॉज आई हैव नेवर हर्ड anybody referring to this in discussion. So मणिमाला जी को मैं कहूँगा कि इस पर और डिस्कशन कराइए ताकि लोग जान सकें. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, sir. As sir has added, the author is principal of the school, architect of life. Being a principal, she has contributed so well in the book because she is a realist and she understands children well. And she is a great combination, as she is not just a principal, she is an author as well. As far as data is concerned, the data is very much economically penned down in as a realist would. It is comprehensive yet simple, and it can be a guidelines for further policy framing. Thanks a lot, sir. Now, I would come down to another expert who is amongst us, and he is a very well-traveled man, a person of literature, so very close to my heart. We have been friends for almost more than decades. But he is from a law background, so keep distance is a better policy. He is widely traveled, an academician, a visiting professor to a number of institutions around the world. Interestingly, NLU students participate in the literary campaign. I have been witness to one. And sir is very much passionate about phonetics and linguistics. It would be interesting to know that what are his view as far as startling revolution in this book is concerned, that without any intervention, migrant workers in the unorganized sector began sending their children to school when they heard about the availability of large number of white-collar jobs. With some education, their children, they knew, could work for the mobile phone company in store change, branded restaurants through low paid. These jobs had responsibility attached to them. So, Mike, to you, we would like to add that sir would be able to provide the perception from the perspective that he has widely traveled, so he has seen the life from that perspective also.
Thank you very much. You repeated the word twice, widely traveled. First time I heard wildly traveled. And I was just, I am basically a poet. I don't know what other introduction is better. And I have some association with this place. So poets think about associations. I was remembering that when I used to be young, I attended many meetings. Most of my evenings were spent in this place. And one day, late, Dr. Jagmohan was delivering a lecture here. And after the lecture, I just rushed. Can I have a picture with you? I hope some of you get inspired by this anecdote. And that would be. And second poetic thing is that I am just holding this book. It gives a very good feeling. So I think the books should give you a good feeling to begin with. After that, anything else is important. There are a couple of things I have told about myself, how I spent my youth or wasted it in wildly traveling to IIC from Kalkaji. Every evening I used to have a jhola. That was in vogue in those days. And then after that, back to the bus stop, waiting for half an hour before I got the bus. So anyway, the second thing is the book. It has a very good feel, not only physically, but intellectually, because once you look at the topics, they are so thought-provoking. I will come to that slightly later. And the third important aspect is the author. And I, madam, know her slightly longer than I know you. So I am sitting sandwiched between two friends. And I know her and we have collaborated. There are very few principals. There may be 50 or 100 odd schools in Dwarka. And she is one of the persons who has visited my conferences. One was on national education policy, if I remember. And she gave her insights into the education policy and also about the students from underprivileged economic backgrounds. And even now, when I see the workers, laborers, I get a very strange feeling. The construction workers, for example. One of the strange feelings is that they look happier than me. So I feel very jealous. But also then I get another strange feeling when I look at their faces. They look too happy. That is slightly dangerous in another way. Like I think many of them are not sending their children to schools. But the type of migrants you are talking of, I think that's slightly a different class. I don't know how to classify this. Perhaps we have to explore this further. Like one is traditional migrants, like construction workers coming from certain states. And I think they are remaining in the same, there are several categories of migrants. One is the beggars and the vendors at these streets. And the third type of migrants, I think this book has covered very well. And that is people coming from, which are called economic migrants, according to you, although the other two categories are also economic migrants, but they are not being touched by this zeal or this opportunity or this possibility of education. And this is very transformative. If someone comes to Delhi and starts as a plumber, plumber or maybe as a auto rickshaw driver or something, then they have some basic minimal means. And what they see is that their children should have better opportunities. And we are seeing stories like that all around us. I think that is the real transformative thing that is taking place in India. The real transformation from the bottom is taking place. Have a look at the topics that have been covered here. They are very thought-provoking. And for example, it is connecting the national education policy with the economic reforms of 1990s, 1991 specifically. And Dr. Roy is an economist to begin with, and she has also diversified into the field of education academically, not only professionally, and she has very well connected these things. Some of the things that I remember in my long interactions with her, long not in time period, but duration, and I see that there is a different feel in her school. I think all of you should visit the school to get that feel. And yes, madam, I really enjoy the snacks you always offer. Don't forget them. So the environment of stress-free environment is one of the things that she emphasizes, she stresses upon. And social responsibility is another theme which we see not only in this book, but also in her practical life. And she is passionate about domestic issues like domestic violence, which ultimately translate into education of children, single parenting, alcoholism, all these social situations or familial situations in which children grow up. She has been a principal for 15 years. I think I have been a principal for a multiple of 15 of some type, 15 weeks or something. And I was a principal of sorts in IGNOU, one of the IGNOU centers. I was mentioning it is called the coordinator. So I know it's very fascinating because you see the power, you feel like a truck driver. You can really carry a lot of people with you, and young people full of possibilities, full of ambitions. So I would congratulate her again on the publication of this book. This is a culmination of her work, research work. And in 2013, she had completed this work. And it is something rare that theoretical research is translated into usable work, usable facts for educationists, for policymakers, administrators, and social workers, social reformers. So it has a very wide range. And thank you, madam. This is another feather in your cap. If you visit her website, you would see a lot of feathers, a lot of awards. And thanks for giving me this opportunity.
Thanks a lot, Professor Saab. As you have rightly said, education is indeed transformative. Again, as you said, that the topics in the books are really very thought-provoking, and the book has very wide range. It can guide the policy framer as well as a social activist. Before I move forward, I would like to go back to the position from where I started, to Reena ma'am. Reena ma'am, what do you think about this book?
Thank you, Dr. Tomar. For me, this book was an eye-opener. I see an effortless transition of Dr. Roy from an economist to an educationist. Her painstaking and indefatigable study of statistics, not just collection, but analysis and interpretation. But this book is not just an accumulation of statistics, if you think. Of course, it has a lot of statistics and studies. It is a very, very absorbing and moving story because of her case studies, which she has done moving with and among the migrants and the children. This story tugs your heart. And you wish that, today I'm retired, you wish that you had done more, if somehow you could have done something more, whatever it was, what could I have done more when I was in the government? And now, even now, this book will give you so many ideas of how you can impact within your own, domestic house, with your own domestic help, you can see, they have aspirations. They come to you, please give me money for the school fees. I don't have the money. Give it. That's what I think, and that's what this book has inspired me to do more. If each one of us did this, I tell you, we could do, uplift them so well. And I feel very touched. She has talked about the aspirations of the migrant people. No, when you talk of the waves, first the wage earner, the male wage earner, moved from the depressed countryside to the city, and the family stayed behind and depended on money orders. Then you had whole households moving to the cities in search of a better life and settling in shanty towns. Then you had women, especially from UP and Bihar, who came on their own, as she mentions details in this, to the city looking for a better life. They work in urban households where they see the urban woman working and educating her children. Then you have your dreams. And I wish that each one of us helps in fulfilling this dream, of the people for getting into. And I often, my husband also sometimes is wondering, because I feel so depressed. Supposing now, of course, Amazon, you order anything, okay? During the pandemic, you had the facility, you order a toaster. And then your maid looks at it and says, "Mere bachcha ko bhi toast bahut pasand hai, madam, mere liye." See the aspirations, that is what I wanted to point out. And that is what Dr. Roy's book, tells you the feeling. But I was happy to know that there is this silent movement, this undercurrent going on in the underbellies of big cities, where the migrants are stepping up on the socio-economic ladder inch by inch, and each one of us can help in that. So I really congratulate her for her book. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, ma'am. As you rightly talked about the personality of Dr. Roy, indeed, this book depicts what she is: effortless transformation from economist to educationist. And as you rightly said, the book is very absorbing and moving. It's a story full of statistics. And this is what it makes it thought-provoking. It makes us feel as well as act for the people who are not as privileged as we are. Thanks, ma'am, again. Now, I would like to ask the author herself to talk about how was her journey when she wrote this particular book. But before I ask her, I would like to shortly, briefly discuss what Dr. Roy is for all of us. All of us know her from one perspective or the other. I know Dr. Roy as principal, ma'am. And for me, she has been from the very beginning principal, ma'am. She is a well-known educationist. And of course, she's heading KLE Society's Baswa International School. And as a principal, as I've known her for more than 15 years, she has always been promotive and campaigning the issues, may it be the woman-oriented issues, may it be the problem of children, and may it be the peace education. At the helm of Baswa also, she has taken a number of initiatives to address the issues of certain aspects of urban living, like domestic violence, single parenting, alcoholism, etc. In fact, whenever I visited her office, I really didn't realize that how the time passes. We talk for hours, and I always end up learning more. She has a lot to share, and she has many experiences to share. And most of them are realistic and practical. From personal perspective also, from kids' perspective also. As far as her academic life is concerned, she has participated and being a speaker in various conferences in nation as well as in international forum. Dr. Roy has actively tried to create a stress-free environment for the students and encourage dialogues as the only and effective means of conflict resolution. I remember once I said कि मेरे बेटे के बाल बहुत बड़े हो गए हैं मैम, कैंची लाके काटने का मन करता है. She said rubber band दे दो. So that's how a principal sees the children. So this is the difference between a academician, a principal who sees children from the positive aspect. And as a mother, I was so irritated by the fact कि इतनी लंबी लंबी जुल्फे कर ली हैं कि ये दिमाग भी इसमें से निकलता है कि नहीं निकलता है. As far as Dr. Roy is concerned, she has doctorate in education from Calcutta University, and it's her PhD thesis which we are discussing, because her PhD thesis is on rising educational aspirants of the migrant living in the slums of Delhi. Her doctoral study has established the linkage between rising income level in the post-reform period and stronger aspiration for better education in the slum dwellers of Delhi. As far as this book is concerned, From Shanties to School, a Silent Movement. The title itself is pretty literary, and it was unexpected coming from an economist. It is among the most talked about book and very interesting as well. Even I would like to briefly talk about the books if given an opportunity. But before that, I would request ma'am to talk about her journey as far as this particular book is concerned.
Oh, I didn't expect that I'll have to talk. I was overwhelmed by the praise of my book by such eminent panelists. Before I say anything about the book, good evening to all of you. And I will thank the eminent panel, Dr. Prasannanshu, Reena, Renu, Tomar, all of our friends only, Dr. C.V. Mishra and Ambassador Reena Pandey for discussing my book with so much passion. And in the audience, I can see Dua Sab sitting there, and Dr. Pandey, Dr. Professor Harish Chaudhary, Abdul Ahmed ji. I mean, all eminent people are here. So a lot of thanks to you. Thanks to IIC, particularly IIC Secretary and Librarian Usha Munshi ji for arranging for this program. And so many faces in the audience. People say that book launch is an event where 15-20 people come, but I know people will come for my event, and I see the people who are sitting here are fond of books and concerned about social issues, and that's why they are here around this conference room and around this book. Thank you so much. I'm really grateful to all of you. If I really have to talk about the book, I would like to point out a few points which I have talked about in the book. First of all, I think when I was working, I feel this was the first attempt to assess the impact of 1991 economic reforms on the literacy scene of India. And at the time when the economic liberalization took place, this dimension of liberalization was overshadowed by more pressing issues like GDP growth rate and employment, export, or globalization. But if you look at the process of economic reforms, a large number of sectors or areas which were previously protected got opened up, and that led to creation of a number of white-collar jobs. And those white-collar jobs were not very highly paying, but they were lowly paid, but they were white-collar jobs. And the migrant workers sensed an opportunity in that. I talked to them. They realized that with proper schooling, even their children can grab those opportunities. So without any incentive or any intervention, they started sending their children to school. My work started, the idea of working on this came to me when I was constantly in conversation with migrant workers who were coming to my school and requesting the admission of their children. And all of them used to tell me, I want to give my child whatever I have not got. And when I visited the slums, I heard the same refrain from all the parents I talked to. They are ready to do anything for sending their children to school. So when I worked for this issue, it was really, a very humbling experience. I have visited a large number of slums in and around Delhi. I collected a huge amount of primary data through case studies, through survey questionnaires, and the book conclusively establishes the relationship between economic reforms and the rising aspiration, educational aspiration of slum children. But when, again, I am both a principal and a researcher, but when I look at these children as the principal of a public school, there are lots of issues. As the principal of a public school, I am witness to the dual life that these children lead. My research also shows that they have, most of them have inferiority complex, particularly when they come in or interact with the peers in the in public schools who come from better off families. And these complexes and inferiority complexes often led to, I can mention that often in some cases led to stealing and bullying. So these children actually need a lot of psychological and social support from people around them, but that is, in most of the cases, that is missing. People do not understand that. I will like to mention, just now I am handling a case in the school where a child has tried to steal a mobile of a friend. So what, as a principal, I'm supposed to do? Should I rusticate the child, or should I counsel the child, or how long it will take me to work on him to make him understand that that's not the way to react? So all these complex situations everybody is facing, and these children themselves are also facing. They have a very different image of themselves in their homes and in the neighborhood, and a different image at school. So they need a lot of help from everyone. I also worry, Ambassador Pandey talked about the pandemic. I worry that if the economic liberalization and consequent economic growth had led to the rising aspiration of these children, then what might have happened in the pandemic? Is there a reverse trend already set in? Because as we know, that large number of migrant workers left the city and moved back to their villages, lost their livelihood, picked up or took out their children from school. So what is happening to the education of these children? Will the migrant dreams remain shattered, or will they bounce back when the whole world is talking about India as the 5th largest economy? So the purpose of my writing the book, as Dr. Prasannanshu mentioned, and C.V. Sharma sir also mentioned, that my book is basically outcome of my research PhD thesis, but the purpose of writing this book as a book is to tell all of you who will read this book that these people, these children need your help. And I'm very much happy that Mrs. Pandey has talked about that desire of helping them. So I think anyone who will read this book will please keep in mind that they need your help. And if it can inspire you doing so, I will think my work is done, and I'll be very happy. Thank you so much. Thank you. I will also request, Renu, don't get away with your opinions. So please tell the audience what you feel about the book.
Thanks a lot, ma'am. Indeed, this book is more relevant in the current scenario, and in fact, we should be looking forward to more work in this direction. I would request ma'am to take up the more work in this direction, and it will provide us a new insight to the current requirement of these unprivileged children particularly. Before I go ahead with what I have gathered out of the book, I would request Professor Prasannanshu to say a few words. क्योंकि माहौल थोड़ा गर्मा गया है तो प्रोफेसर साहब ने कहा मुझे और बोलना है.
या प्रोफेसर साहब ऐसे ही होते हैं. सुबह बच्चों ने पता नहीं एक क्वेश्चन पूछ लिया और ऐसे ही जैसा आपने, हाँ हाँ, तो बस फिर अभी मैंने एक दो लाइन लिखी, टाइम नहीं मिला, लिखना चाह रहा था मैं, पर ये खाली तुकबंदी नहीं है इसमें. these are really the contextual things which I gathered from all the speakers, like Dr. Manimala Roy, a principal with principles, economist with education, who takes shanties to schools, who kindles hope in the hopeless, and takes research to happiness's search. तो बाकी एक आध शब्द और या हो गए पूरे? देखिए, मुझे ये लगता है बहुत ही हैपनिंग टाइम है एजुकेशन के लिए हमारे देश में. जैसे नेशनल एजुकेशन पॉलिसी भी आई है अभी रिसेंटली, और ये पहली बार नहीं आई है. लोग इसको गलती से सोचते हैं कि न्यू एजुकेशन पॉलिसी बोलते हैं, नेशनल एजुकेशन पॉलिसी है पर नई है, ये बात तो सच है. अच्छा, इसके अंदर जो बातें हुई हैं, जैसे डॉक्टर शर्मा ने काफ़ी इसको अंडरलाइन किया, एम्फेसाइज किया. सबसे बड़ी बात क्रिएटिविटी, फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी, इंक्लूसिवनेस की बात है इसके अंदर. और मुझे लगता है कि ये जो किताब है बहुत कॉन्टेक्चुअल है इन सारे मसलों को लेकर, और ये एक बड़ा राइप टाइम है, एक फर्टाइल ग्राउंड अवेलेबल है जब हम ऐसी चीज़ों में रिसर्च करें और इसको एम्फेसाइज करें, लाइक द पीपल हु आर इग्नोर्ड, द हिडन पीपल, जो लोग एजुकेशन से, मेन स्ट्रीम से बाहर रह जाते हैं. और इस किताब से हमें दो बातें पता चलती हैं जो सॉलिड रिसर्च के ऊपर है. बहुत सारे मैसेजेस हैं इसमें. एक मैसेज तो यही है कि देखिए, आप रिसर्च करके और डिग्री लेकर बैठ मत जाइए. आप में से बहुत सारे लोग रिसर्च कर रहे होंगे या कर चुके होंगे. आप सब लोग मोटिवेशन लेके जाइए, जो आपने काम किया है उसको इस तरह से भी प्रेजेंट करिए कि एक आम आदमी भी समझ सके. अब आपने जो काम किया, इट इज़ रियली वेरी वैल्यूएबल. जो आपने पीएचडी की है, एमफिल की है, या फिर वैसे ही आपने रिसर्च पेपर्स लिखे हैं, दैट इज़ रियली वेरी वैल्यूएबल. क्यों? क्योंकि वो रहते समय तक लोग उसको रेफ़र कर सकते हैं. हो सकता है अभी 2 लोगों ने पढ़ा हो. पीएचडी का होता है आमतौर पे खाली एग्जामिनर पढ़ते हैं, उसके बाद रख दी जाती है. ठीक है. तो उसकी वैल्यू तो मैं अंडरमाइन नहीं कर रहा, बट साथ में क्या है कि आप थोड़ा सा एफर्ट करिए. जो भी आपने शोध किया, जो आपने अनुभव के आधार पर किया है या फिर अंकों के आधार पर किया है, शोध एम्पेरिकल किया है या जिस भी तरह से किया, डॉक्ट्रिनल काम किया है, और उसको कुछ ऐसे शब्दों में लोगों तक पहुंचाइए कि जो उसका उपयोग कर सकें और उससे समाज में परिवर्तन ला सकें, लोगों के जीवन में परिवर्तन ला सकें. फिर से मैं मैडम को धन्यवाद और साधुवाद देता हूं कि देखिए, इस पुस्तक के माध्यम से मैडम ने यही काम किया है कि जो शोध इन्होंने किया उस पर डिग्री हो गई. ठीक है, पीएचडी डिग्री के आधार पर ये इन्होंने लिखा है, रेखांकित किया इसको बार बार, पर उसके बाद जिससे कि लोगों के जीवन में परिवर्तन आ सके, इसलिए इन्होंने उस शोध को ऐसी सरल भाषा में और इस प्रस्तुति में लोगों के सामने लाई हैं, जिससे कि समाज में अंततोगत्वा एक बड़ा परिवर्तन आ सके. बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद.
Thanks a lot, sir. Now I would like to share what. Yeah. मैं बाद में बोलूँगी, पहले
Yeah,
सर को
I will be
सुनेंगे.
very short. I will be very short. I mean, I just wanted to add a number of things that I wanted to say has been said by Prasannanshu ji. Look, when we refer to literature on economics of education, we normally read J.B.G. Tilak. You work on economics of education and you will read him. And the present Vice Chancellor of NIPA, he is also from that area. Or Amartya Sen, Bhagwati, and such authors. She has referred to these in her book. The other part of literature or the parallel literature, what we can refer to is a very, very brilliant report, which is known as the Probe report, People's Report on Basic Education. And it has already been said, but I'm only repeating, that these are anecdotes and first-hand report of actual lives which require educational intervention. So an economist working on areas of education, this book is a great book comparable to Probe report and such reports, which change lives, which help you understand the actual situation. So on one hand, you will have writings by Amartya Sen or Tilak or similar people, which has only data and data and data, which you can't really utilize. Here, this book makes you understand it is for, I would say, common people to understand and develop that sensibility for those who are left behind. हम सब उसकी बात करते हैं, करना चाहते हैं, कुछ समझ नहीं आता है, अगर तिलक को पढ़ भी लें तो क्या करें उनके डेटा से, कैसे हम इंटरवीन कहाँ कर सकते हैं. उस तरह से ये किताब है. और what I said, I think Manimala ji has proved that she is such an emotional teacher and a principal. इकोनॉमिस्ट बड़े रॉ होते हैं, वो डेटा जानते हैं और स्ट्रेट कहना चाहते हैं, लेकिन वो जब इनको अफेक्ट करता है कि कैसे बदलें. सो आई थिंक थ्रू दिस रिसर्च एंड बुक आई कैन सी अ पर्सन बीइंग ट्रांसफॉर्म्ड. एक इकोनॉमिस्ट है जो कि पहले जाके देखता है ग्राउंड रियलिटी, फिर उस पर लिखता है, फिर लाइफ चेंज. देखिए उनके एग्जाम्पल्स जो उन्होंने दिए कि एक बच्चा चोरी कर लिया एक मोबाइल, उसके लिए क्या करें. ये एक माँ भी है, एक प्रिंसिपल भी है. इसको नींद खराब हो रही है इस कारण से कि ये बच्चा जो मोबाइल चोरी क्यों किया, इसको कैसे बदलें. ये कॉमन इकोनॉमिस्ट नहीं है. इकोनॉमिस्ट तो डेटा देखता है, साफ बात कहता है, लेकिन इकोनॉमिस्ट जो कि इतना सॉफ्ट है, कंसर्न्ड है, तो आई थिंक कि ये इस किताब को जरूर पढ़ना चाहिए, जरूर पढ़ना चाहिए. एंड दैट आई एम नॉट सेइंग बिकॉज आई एम सिटिंग ऑन पैनल on the book launch or discussion on book, because I really feel such literature is required which can help us as well, common people, understand the reality and do something for the society. मेरा पूरा जो एजुकेशन पॉलिसी है, द नेशनल एजुकेशन पॉलिसी, यही है. वो इंडिया को भारत बनाने की पॉलिसी है. हर व्यक्ति का योगदान होना चाहिए, तभी समाज बदलेगा. गवर्नमेंट के पॉलिसीज बन के कुछ नहीं होंगे. तो हमने कई पॉलिसी दी, उन्होंने कहा हम ये तीसरा बेसिकली नेशनल पॉलिसी है. 68 है, 86 है, ये तभी है, बाकी तो रिपोर्ट्स हैं. लेकिन ये किताब मदद करती है उन लोगों को जो कि सही में कुछ करना चाहते. हम सब करना चाहते हैं, सही पूछें तो हम सब कुछ ना कुछ चाहते हैं, करें तो क्या करें ये नहीं पता चलता है. तो ये बहुत अच्छी किताब है उस तरह से, तो सबों को पढ़ना चाहिए. थैंक यू.
Thanks a lot, sir. It's great but apt compliment for the book, From Shanties to School, A Silent Movement. It has been compared with the Probe report. And as sir rightly said, that this is a book which brings out sensibility and which is not something which usually an economist do, but a principal does. And all of us know that. Last but not least, I will not leave the opportunity to talk about the book. I would like to highlight the narrative aspect of the book and its ability to form the connection with the readers. Irrespective of readers' educational background, gender, attitude, or interest. Personally speaking, when it comes to digit, I really want to avoid. I'm the first one to leave the place where the digits are being talked about. And when it comes to maths, I am the first person to leave anywhere and everywhere because I really don't like mathematics. So, numbers से मेरी जमती नहीं. लेकिन book में numbers नहीं है, story है. The book begins like a story about a family of Ram Ratan. It takes us to famine-stricken Bihar and slums of Delhi. It provides us picture of local politics, aspiration, along with wealth of data. So, despite being a statistics-based research by an economist, it doesn't let the reader realize that reader is being fooled into learning economics. It is a research study. informed inquiry to provide statistical basis for future strategy and policy making. Statistical picture of how migrant community moved up socially and economically with their children becoming part of the organized sector. The book traces this journey, how without any government interventions, the country's literacy scene got a new boost, the blows of child labor were softened, and within a generation, the socio-economic development was observed. The author is indeed very smart and very clever. She is a real teacher whose cause and purpose is to teach, but without readers realizing that they are being taught. Thank you. All others, people who are here, who have read the book, would like to talk about the book or anything they would like to share. We are really looking forward to that.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Beauty, and I know Dr. Roy from last 17 years.
That we
and
can see. What's your name?
my name is Beauty. I've come out straight from the fairy tale. Okay. And I have one more hero here with me. Okay, she's not a Walt Disney princess, but she's come out straight from Shanties to School. This is Manya. Okay, she came to me in 2019, and she said that I want to study. Okay, she's from a very small village in Bihar, and I think so. Just as it takes a little spark to start a fire, and we're always looking at the government, this will happen, then this will happen to our country. But I think that if we take one small step, okay, we can do wonders, okay? This child came to me, could not speak Hindi, could not speak English, couldn't read a letter. She's 7 years old now, she speaks fluent English, she reads well, she can decode any word, okay? And Shanties to School, okay, is going to inspire her village, because Manya will tell you what is her dream. Manya, tell them, what is your dream?
My dream is to open a big school in my village and educate all the children in the village.
Tell them something more about yourself.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Manya Kumari, and I'm from a small village in Bihar. My school name is Rishikul International School. I study in class 2. I'm a 7 years old girl. My favorite color is pink. I have 2 dogs. I like to play with them. My favorite game is hide and seek. And my favorite food is ice cream. Thank you.
Can I ask her a question?
Yes, you can ask her a
Like,
question.
No, it's not a test or anything. So, Manya, what is the story of your transformation as we, no.
He's asking you, what happened to you? First you used to live somewhere and then you came here. What happened to you? Tell them. Can you understand what I'm trying to ask you? Yeah, tell them. Who taught you, how you learned? Online, yes.
My beauty ma'am taught me everything. Thank you for inviting me.
दुआ सब कुछ बोलेंगे Thank you. Anyone else?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Sara, and I study in Dr. Manimala Roy's school. So I'm a student of hers. This has been an incredibly enlightening experience. I thoroughly enjoy talking to people. And I would like to share an experience that I've had, and I'm continually having it. Recently, I went to Nainital, and I got to work with this incredible organization called B2R. And what they do there is they try to stop, like ma'am has mentioned about migrant workers, they try to stop them from going. So what they're doing is there are 10th grade pass students, 12th grade pass students, and unfortunately there are no employment opportunities for them because they don't have degrees. So they move to the cities and they get jobs like, working as a security guard or a peon, although they are educated. And the women don't get any chance at all. So what they were doing is that they have been training these people, and they've been working as a BPO. So they work incredibly well. And if you ever see them work, which I highly suggest if you go to Nainital, they work just like any BPO in Gurgaon or Mumbai would. And they have trained these people so that they are, employed, they are educated, they speak English, and around 60% of their employees are women. And I was very, very honored to have been their content writer, and I'm still doing that. And like ma'am has shared these stories, I'm really, she's really inspired me to follow in her footsteps, and I'm been really honored to write their stories. And I got to interview around 24 of those employees. And what you learn is beyond anything you could learn in a classroom. I'm a class 11 student, and I've never had an experience like this. I think those 20 days impacted me more than, anything I've ever learned in school. And it makes you realize how privileged you are. And if there's, even a bit one can do to help these people around us who are truly incredibly gifted and they can bring our country to new heights, I think it is incredible and that we should definitely do it. So thank you so much.
Excuse me, I will share my few experience. My name is Malay Chakravarti. I am also from Manimala University, Jadavpur University. I was a MBA with IIM. Then I spent my 3 decades in pharma industry for my bread and butter. But of course, in 2012, I thought that possibly why don't we start something for these underprivileged children. I am fortunate, Madam also went to our school. Madam has given a lot of encouragement. And in 2012, we started with 4 children. So I'm sorry that I am not disturbing you, people are educationists and all that. My practical experience I want to share. These 4 children we started in 2012 in Sector 23, Pochanpur, in the name of Pahal Patshala. Fortunately, few of the lady member, particularly their housewife, they said, okay, you go ahead, I will give the support. From 2012, we ran the school, and particularly for the last 6-7 years, what is initially we have to do, this particularly the migrant labor children, they to come, we give the education for 1 or 2 years, then we admit in the government school, nearby school, and fortunately, the MCD schools, they give the admissions for them. And at present, we are having around 40 children, and more than 200-250 children we have admitted in the school. Our Darka, some of the lady members and all that, they have done a good job. We have now 40 children and they are studying it. The problems we are facing, particularly after the COVID, because you see, all of a sudden that COVID, when they opened the school in this month of February, out of 40 children, only 6 children turned back because they left their villages. In our capacity, we try to contact them. Someone is in Sagar, someone is in extreme in Nasik. But unfortunately, they are working there. They don't want to return back to Delhi because many of the migrant labor, they decide to remain in their villages and preoccupy there this farming. So many of them, I asked about, are you continue? Because we have a data feedback. We try to get the children in 2014 and 15 are still there studying or not. Fortunately, few of the children in government school, they're 7th or 8th. And if they require any assistance, books and all that, we do collect and give it. But after the COVID, we found that mostly the madam books and all that I've run through, one of the major problems facing is many of the migrant labour they left. And particularly the education is shattered due to these people, they are into far off villages and all that. So that's the reason my experience, I say particularly last 1 and 2 years, whatever the effort and all that we have done, because few of the girls and boys were very, very intelligent. We have been tried our best, send them to school, 4th, 5th standard they're studying in some government school also, but particularly that doesn't disturb. So that's the reason I want to share my experience, particularly after this pandemic period. Thank you, ma'am.
Ma'am, may I just ask you one question? People have been sharing their views and things over here. I've been hearing a lot about aspirations of the children who've come from shanties and who've joined schools. You are an educationist too. I would like to know, I haven't read your book. I am looking forward to reading your book. But I would like to know how successful is the RTE, Right to Education Act, and is it actually fulfilling this dream of the aspiration that these children have, in your opinion?
See, RT is a good law which has asked the government to ensure that all the children in that age group up to 14 years should be in school. So if the parents are not sending, they are also punishable. I mean, if you are not sending your child below 14 years of age to school, then it is a legal offense. So as per law, it is doing very well, but my study is basically for Delhi. So in Delhi, the basic, see, RT says the basic responsibility is of the government of the state to provide education. So what Delhi government has done, they are taking children in their own schools also, state-run schools, and they have asked all the private schools to enroll to reserve 25% of the seats for economically backward children. So when even my research shows when children are going to government schools, they are in the same milieu, so they do not have much differences to see. But when these 25% of children are coming to public schools, they are having extremely opposite situation with their peers. They are coming from a very poor background, and the rest are coming, remaining 75% are coming from better off high middle class or upper income group. So that creates a lot of complications, which is more psychological than economical. Because for a middle class family, a scented eraser or a good pencil is just something normal. But for a small child who comes from a slum, that is an item of luxury. When they join in lower classes, like admission is in the age group of 3 years or 5 years, then then there is not much problem. They grow up with the same children and they mix up better. But when they take admission at a higher level, suppose in class 3, 4, then they are already grown up, so they understand the problem much more, and then the problem of integration is very, very challenging. So as a law, RT is good, and these children, even my research shows that even without RT, these parents are willing to send their children to English medium school, because they think that if our children can speak English, they will get better paid jobs. So English is the language of aspiration. So that way, that's the...
But ma'am, as an educationist, do you feel that it would be better that if they went to amongst their own milieu, or
no, I don't think so, because we have to, the other part will have to work hard on it to take them along.
Thank you.
I would definitely put in, not as a concluding note, but Dr. Roy, From Shanties to School is not a silent movement anymore. And I'm quite sure that all those who haven't read will definitely be motivated to read this book. and the facts that the data that has been presented in this book, like Professor C.B. Mishra has said, Sharma has said, that yes, this is the kind of book that needs to go from shanties straight to the boardrooms and then to the public. So I would request all of you to read this book and congratulate Dr. Roy on such a beautiful discussion that we've had here this evening. It is an honor to read the book. It is actually transforming. So thank you, Dr. Roy, for writing it.
What all of you have really made this evening great. Before I wind up, I would request Reena ma'am to ask a question, because she said she really want to ask a question to the
I
author.
actually am asking this question because I have the privilege of sitting with leading educationists and the author, all eminent educationists. You chose Delhi, Dr. Roy, for several reasons. One was the higher wages, a high level of development, even higher than the national average. Second largest slum after Mumbai. And a government which is investing heavily into education, more than 5,000 schools, etc., and very active NGOs and other independent groups. Yet it's disconcerting to note that you still have a large number of out-of-school children among the underprivileged in Delhi, the capital city. So what happens to the other migrants in other cities? You know, this is now mind-boggling. How will you address this? I mean, this is... I think that, like Professor Sharma is now working on the article.
I'm inclined to answer that question. Yes. 2015, when we started working on the right to education, when there was a demand for a new education policy, the day we had the CABE meeting, Central Advisory Board on Education, and I had the privilege of attending it, there was a news in the newspapers, 60 lakh children out of school. And Mrs. Irani, who was firebrand minister, she read the newspaper, she conducted the CABE meeting, and at the end of it, she declared that we'll have a CABE subcommittee which will look into the out-of-school children phenomenon. And somehow I was also a member of that CABE subcommittee, which was on out-of-school children. We traveled across the country. You will have to bear with the answer, long answer. I'm sorry. I've spoken on 3 different platforms since morning on this topic itself. So we traveled across the country, talked to children, talked to parents, क्या हुआ, क्यों छोड़ दिए स्कूल? और उन्होंने एक ही बात कहा, कुछ समझ नहीं आता था. हम लोगों ने होशंगाबाद में एक बड़ा एक्सपेरिमेंट किया था. वहाँ सारी किताबें बनाई गई थी, बच्चों के पर्यावरण से लेकर के, उनके सराउंडिंग से लेकर के सारा इलस्ट्रेशन किया गया था. टीचर्स स्पेशली ट्रेन किए गए थे कि ये ट्राइबल बच्चों को पढ़ाएंगे. एट द एंड ऑफ ईयर एवरीबडी सेड कुछ समझ में नहीं आया, कुछ सीखे नहीं. हम लोगों ने कहा ये क्या हुआ? ये सारे टीचर, ये टेक्स्ट बुक हिंदी में था, इनकी भाषा हिंदी नहीं थी. हम ऐसा मान लेते हैं कि बिहार, यूपी, छत्तीसगढ़ ये सब हिंदी भाषी क्षेत्र हैं. मैं हिंदी भाषी नहीं हूं, मैं मगही भाषी हूं. मैं बिहार से आता हूं. ये हम कभी सोच नहीं पाए मैम. ठीक है, राइट. The National Education Policy 2020 addresses these, read chapter 2 and 3. What we have said, every child will get, and that is why we have increased the length of schooling from 12 years to 15 years. Now schooling will start from 3 years. 3 years to 6 years, the children of the less privileged spend their time, the girls spend their time looking after their siblings. When the mother goes to work, because she has to go to earn money. ये बच्चा 3 साल कहाँ बिताता है? अपने गुल्ली डंडा खेलते हुए अपने गांव में. लेकिन अमीर का बच्चा कहाँ होता है? वो एक प्ले स्कूल में होता है. तो वो 3 साल पढ़ता है, सीखता है. गरीब का बच्चा सीखता ही नहीं. और फिर हम कंपटीशन कराते हैं सबों का कि 6 साल की उम्र में सबको एक ही क्लास में रख दिए और फिर कहा कि ये बच्चे फेल कर गए. जब ये बच्चा घर लौट के जाता है हर दिन, क्योंकि वो फर्स्ट जनरेशन लर्नर है, उसके पेरेंट्स पूछते हैं बेटा क्या सीख के आए? तुम आज अगर घर पे रहते तो 3 गोईठा बना देते, कम से कम छोटी बहन को देखते तो मां जा सकती थी काम करने. तुमको वो छुड़ा करके हम भेजे हैं काम पढ़ने के लिए. तो हर दिन उसका पेरेंट्स पूछता है क्या सीख के आए, वो कहता है कुछ समझ में नहीं आया। 1 सप्ताह, 2 सप्ताह, 3 सप्ताह, महीना भर, कहता है यार तुम मंद बुद्धि हो, तुम मत जाओ स्कूल। देखिए ये रियलिटी है, हम लोग देश भर में घूम करके देखे। वी टॉक टू सेक्रेटरीज ऑफ एजुकेशन ऑफ स्टेट्स एंड दे हैड नो क्लू। That is why we decided that the schooling will start from age 3, it will go up to class 8, and that will be foundation, जो स्कूल का पार्ट नहीं होगा। इन सबको मदर टंग में एजुकेशन दिया जाएगा, क्योंकि ये एजुकेशन नहीं है, ये स्कूलिंग है। उनको स्कूल आने जाने की आदत लगानी है केवल। पॉलिसी को पढ़िए, नेशनल एजुकेशन पॉलिसी 2020, ये बहुत इंसाइटफुल डॉक्यूमेंट है जो बहुत सोच समझ के बनाया गया है। ये बच्चे अब रुकेंगे मैम स्कूल में, क्योंकि 3 साल से उनको उनकी भाषा में, अभी हम बच्चे से यही पूछना चाह रहे थे, अंग्रेजी बोल रही है, इसको अंग्रेजी में ट्रांसफॉर्म करने में इतना दिक्कत हुआ होगा। अगर ये लड़की मगही भाषी है तो इसको 2 मिनट में मगही में हम बात कर सकते हैं। और ऐसी कौन सी चीज हम पढ़ा रहे हैं 3 साल के बच्चे को जो अंग्रेजी सीखने की जरूरत है? कल प्रधानमंत्री जब एड्रेस किए हैं सुभाष चंद्र बोस की, उसमें यही बात कहे हैं कि अब हर बच्चा मातृभाषा में पढ़ेगा, अंग्रेजी में पढ़ने की क्या जरूरत है? क्या हमारा बच्चा मगही में कोई नई बात नहीं कर सकता है? हम लोगों ने राइट टू एजुकेशन में गलतियां की हैं। राइट टू एजुकेशन में कह दिया नो डिटेंशन, एक पूरा जनरेशन निकल गया जो बिना सीखे निकल गया। उसको कैसे पढ़ाएं? 8वीं तक बच्चा, न पेरेंट्स न बच्चा, पेरेंट्स को है कि मेरा बच्चा क्लास 9 तक पहुंच जाए, बच्चा सोचता है हम तो बिना पढ़े निकल रहे हैं। टीचर कहता है भैया जब दोनों मिलकर यही करना चाहते हो हम छोड़ देते हैं, क्या करें? वो सरकारी नौकर है, बीडीओ आके डांटता है उसको। वी रियली मेड अ मेस विथ एजुकेशन, स्पेशली स्कूल एजुकेशन, because we don't have professionals looking after school education. We don't have professional. You have a University Grants Commission which works on higher education, which is the body which looks after school education. Everybody who is not into education decides about a school education. Anybody has any idea how many children are there in school? भारत की आबादी क्या है? 140 करोड़। 50 करोड़ बच्चे हैं स्कूल में। हम 50 करोड़ बच्चों के साथ खिलवाड़ कर रहे हैं। हम उनके लिए कोई सही पॉलिसी नहीं बना रहे हैं। लेकिन ये पॉलिसी, आई एम वेरी वेरी हैप्पी। सरकार आज बीजेपी की है, लेकिन कहना नहीं चाहिए, ये प्रधानमंत्री स्वयं बैठ के देखे हैं, हर लाइन को वो मॉनिटर किए हैं, और उनकी जो समझ है समाज की, समाज की ग्रास रूट की, उसी का देन है ये पॉलिसी। इसलिए राइट टू एजुकेशन इसलिए भी बदल रहा है। हम लोग राइट टू एजुकेशन ला करके बहुत बच्चों को बाहर निकाल दिए स्कूल से। 25% की बात करते हैं। मैम जानती हैं, मैं देश भर ट्रैवल किया हूं। 25% बच्चों को लाते हैं और एक अलग कमरे में बैठा देते हैं बहुत सारे स्कूल में, और उनको NIOS में एडमिशन करा देते हैं। मैं जानता हूं देश को, वो 25% काम नहीं किया है देश भर में। कुछ स्कूल अच्छे हैं, बहुत कॉन्शियसली उसको बैठाते हैं, उनका लाइफ चेंज करते हैं, लेकिन ज्यादातर बच्चों को और भी डिप्रेशन हो जाता है कि मैं उस क्लास में क्यों नहीं हूं। उधर राजा बैठता है, मैं रंक हूं इसलिए यहां बैठ रहा हूं। ये तो और बुरा हो गया। हम लोग बहुत चीजें बदलने जा रहे हैं, और उस पर बहुत ईमानदारी से और काम होगा कि ये राइट टू एजुकेशन ने बहुत भला नहीं किया देश का। क्या जरूरत है इससे सभी संस्थाओं को बाहर करने का जो बढ़िया काम कर रहे थे शिक्षा में, लेकिन वो नहीं कर सकते हैं क्योंकि शिक्षा का अधिकार कानून आ गया कि आप हर बच्चे को उसी स्कूल में डालेंगे जिसके पास 3 एकड़ जमीन है। आई बिलीव, दिस पॉलिसी, स्पेशली द लैंग्वेज पॉलिसी, विल डू अ ग्रेट गुड, एंड 3 साल से लाना बहुत जरूरी था। और तीसरा जो बड़ा इसमें रिकमेंडेशन है कि हर बच्चे को लाके नाश्ता देंगे। I get emotional and I have lived this policy for 8 years. Let me tell you, स्मृति ईरानी हमेशा एक बार कहती थी जब हम लोग काम शुरू किए थे, उस बच्चे को जाके देखो जो रात में बिना खाना खाए बेड में गया है। मैं गई हूँ, और सुबह बिना खाए खाली पेट स्कूल आता है, उसको तुम पढ़ाना चाहते हो, पढ़ेगा क्या? गांव में जाओ, गांव को देख के आओ, तुमको पता चलेगा क्या बनाना है पॉलिसी। उसी का देन है ये। हम लोग एक्चुअली इस गाँव में गए, बच्चा भूखे पेट आया है। जब आप उसको सिखाते हैं कौसे कौआ कौसे कौआ कौसे कौआ करता है, जैसे ही आप कहते हैं 3 लड़का 2 लड़की कितने हुए, क्योंकि वो पूरे भूखे पेट बैठा हुआ है कि हमको 12 बजे और मिड डे मील मिले। हम लोगों ने कभी जाके स्कूल को देखा नहीं ग्रास रूट पर। ये एक्चुअली प्रधानमंत्री की समझ है। वो गांव गांव जाके देख के आए हैं, और वो हम लोग को बताते थे, ये देखे हो ऐसा होता है, जाओ देख के आओ। तो ये पॉलिसी देखिए, जो आप जितनी भी परेशानियां बता रही हैं, जो आप समझ रहे हैं, वो सबको केटर कर रहा है, सबको आंसर कर रहा है। और लागू करने में यह है कि हम अगर एक्चुअली उन लोगों के द्वारा लागू नहीं कराए जो उसमें हैं, जो फील करते हैं, तो फिर ये एक ब्यूरोक्रेटिक डॉक्यूमेंट बन के रह जाएगा। लेकिन मुझे ऐसे लगता है कि एक्चुअली ये सब लागू होंगे। वी हैव आइडेंटिफाइड 297 टास्क्स based on the 30 page of school education. We have already identified. It is published. सार्थक, ये आपके मिनिस्ट्री के साइट पर डाला हुआ है सार्थक डॉक्यूमेंट। 40 से 50% ऑलरेडी इंप्लीमेंट हो चुका है। 40 भाषाओं में प्राइमर्स बन चुके हैं। बहुत सारी चीज़ें हुई हैं, लेकिन आपका भी जो प्रश्न और आपका भी जो प्रश्न है, दोनों का आंसर है। और चीज़ें बदलेंगी, बहुत अच्छा होगा और जरूर अच्छी तरह से लागू होगा। 2040 का भारत एक अलग भारत होगा।
सब वंडरफुल थिंग्स यू हैव सेड। लेकिन मेरा एक छोटा सा प्रश्न है, बिकॉज आई एम इंट्रीग्ड बाय व्हाटएवर यू सेड जस्ट नाउ, कि आप उनको उनकी भाषा में सिखाएंगे, बट हाउ विल यू प्रिपेयर देम फॉर नेशनल लेवल, फॉर कम्पीटिंग एट द नेशनल लेवल? वो जो एक लेवल प्लेइंग फील्ड है, वो तो उनको प्रोवाइड करना बहुत मुश्किल है, मैं जानती हूँ, बहुत साल लग जाएंगे उसमें। लेकिन उनको नेशनल लेवल की तैयारी कराना और फिर एक इंटरनेशनल उसमें सिनेरियो में हाउ दे विल स्टैंड इन दैट सिनेरियो, हाउ विल दे फेस इट, इसकी तैयारी आप कैसे करेंगे सर?
मैं थोड़ा ऑफेंसिव आंसर से शुरू करूंगा। इंटरनेशनल से क्या मतलब है कि हर बच्चा आईआईटी जाएगा कि नहीं? नहीं जाने की जरूरत है, नहीं जाने की जरूरत है। 1 लाख लड़कियां हमारे देश की वर्ल्ड की बेस्ट डांसर्स निकलेंगी, 1 लाख लड़के बेस्ट रनर्स निकलेंगे, 1 लाख बच्चे बेस्ट पेंटर्स निकलेंगे। ये दुनिया भर में हमारा नाम करेंगे। 1 लाख बच्चे अच्छा कपड़ा बनाएंगे जो 2040 में पुनः ढाका का मलमल दुनिया भर खोजेगा। हम क्यों चाहते हैं कि हर बच्चा आईआईटी जाए? इसीलिए हम लोग ये सारे, वी हैव टॉक्ड ऑफ ऑल वेरियस एरियाज ऑफ नॉलेज बीइंग इंट्रोड्यूस्ड इन लोअर प्राइमरी। तो क्या होगा? विश्व का नाम सुनी होंगी आप। दुनिया का माना हुआ पॉटर था, वो भारत का था, जिसके पर उपनिषद है। वो ऐसे मिट्टी के बर्तन बनाता था जो दुनिया भर मांगता था। हम अपने उपनिषद पढ़ते हैं लेकिन उसको लागू नहीं करते। जरा इंतजार तो करिए कि हम मिट्टी से खेलने वाले बच्चों को कहेंगे अच्छा बर्तन बनाओ ना। 3, 4, 5 साल में पहले मिट्टी से खेलेगा, 8 साल की उम्र में मिट्टी का बर्तन बनाएगा, जब वो 22 साल का होगा तो नए नए बर्तन बना करके दुनिया भर को भेजेगा। ऐसे ही होगा जब हम लकड़ी से खेलने को बताएंगे। हम लोग ये मान लिए हैं कि बच्चा अगर अच्छा है तो आईआईटी ही पहुंचेगा। नहीं, यही प्रधानमंत्री भी कहते हैं, हर ये डीलिंग डिग्री फ्रॉम जॉब, ये पॉलिसी पूरे तरह से डीलिंग करेगी। आपको मैं पुनः, आप जब ऐसे प्रश्न पूछती हैं, मैं 2 सेक्टर को हेड कर रहा था, नॉन फॉर्मल एजुकेशन एंड वोकेशनल एजुकेशन। मैं रांची के डीपीएस में बात कर रहा था बच्चों से। हम कहे क्या बदलना चाहिए? एक लड़की फर्स्ट सेमेस्टर से बोलती है सर अगर मेरा चलता ना तो मैं डांस ही करती, मेरा डांस पैशन है, मैं तरह तरह के डांस सीखती, काम करती। हमने पूछा, डॉक्टर राम सिंह से प्रिंसिपल थे, कि भाई ये कौन लड़की है? कहे कि इसके फादर और मदर दोनों रांची के लीडिंग डॉक्टर्स हैं। मदर इज अ गायनेकोलॉजिस्ट, फादर इज अ सर्जन एंड दे हैव अ बिग नर्सिंग होम एंड शी इज द ओनली डॉटर। अब माता पिता चाहते हैं कि वो डॉक्टर बने ताकि नर्सिंग होम का चार्ज ले। वहां से हम गुवाहाटी गए, गुवाहाटी के गवर्नमेंट स्कूल में गए। वहां लोअर मिडिल क्लास ऑब्वियसली, हम वहां भी यही प्रश्न पूछे बच्चों से, वहां भी एक लड़की यही बात कही। और सबसे मजेदार बात तब हुई जब लंच ब्रेक हुआ और जो टीचर मेरा विजिट कोऑर्डिनेट कर रही थी, उन्होंने कहा सर मैं भी बड़ा पैशनेट हूं डांस के बारे में, मैं पब्लिक परफॉर्मेंस देती हूं, लेकिन मैं यहां केमिस्ट्री टीचर हूं। क्यों ये लड़कियां बेस्ट डांसर्स ऑफ द टाउन नहीं हो सकती हैं? कम से कम आसाम जाने उसको, ये बड़ी बात नहीं है। वो बेचारी अपना सब हॉबी छोड़ करके, क्योंकि डांसिंग एज अ सब्जेक्ट नहीं था, ये ज्ञान का एक विषय है, 64 कलाओं में ये था एक। ये तो मैकॉले ने मार दिया ना, क्योंकि हमको अंग्रेजी पढ़े लोग चाहिए जो हमारे राज्य को इस देश में बनाए रखने में मदद करेंगे। हम उसको आज तक डीलिंग नहीं किए, अब हम डीलिंग कर रहे हैं। आप देखते रहिए 2040 में लोग वो नहीं गाएंगे कि आईआईटी गया, लोग ये कहेंगे इस स्कूल का ये बेस्ट कारपेंटर निकला है, ये बढ़िया लकड़ी के फर्नीचर बना सकता है, ये बच्ची बढ़िया डांसर है, ये स्विट्जरलैंड में पेंटिंग में कंपटीशन में जाके आई है। तो देश दुनिया भर में जो भारत सोने की चिड़िया थी वो फिर से भारत सोने की चिड़िया बनेगा और दुनिया भर में 64 कलाओं में हमारे बच्चे चमकेंगे। तो आईआईटी भूल जाइए, वही इंटरनेशनल होगा। हम इंटरनेशनल पैमाना तय करेंगे और हमारे बच्चे दुनिया भर में बेस्ट होंगे। यही है पॉलिसी.
Thanks a lot, sir, for enlightening all of us. And all of you, I'm really, really very thankful to all of you for making it a wonderful evening, full of knowledge, interaction, laughter, and smiles. Thank you.